There's a kind of exhaustion that appears after spending time with people. It doesn't always happen immediately. Sometimes you only notice it later, when the conversation is over and the environment becomes quiet again. Part 54 is about the psychology behind why some people feel emotionally drained after being around others, even when the interaction itself seemed normal or even pleasant. You might spend time with friends, attend social gatherings, talk with coworkers, or simply interact with people throughout the day. Everything seems fine while it is happening. You laugh, you respond, you participate, you remain engaged in the conversation. But once the interaction ends, something changes. A heavy tiredness appears in your mind. You feel the need to be alone, to sit quietly, or to disconnect from conversation entirely. This experience often confuses people. They begin wondering if something is wrong with them. Why do other people seem energized by social interaction, while I feel completely exhausted afterward? The answer lies in how different minds process social environments. Human interaction requires a surprising amount of mental and emotional energy. During conversations, your brain is constantly interpreting signals. You are listening to words, analyzing tone, reading facial expressions, responding appropriately, and monitoring your own reactions at the same time. This process happens quickly and automatically, but it still consumes cognitive resources. For some people, especially those who are highly observant or emotionally aware, this process becomes even more intense. Instead of simply reacting to conversation, the mind begins processing multiple layers of interaction at once. You notice subtle shifts in mood. You sense tension between people. You recognize when someone is uncomfortable, even if they do not say it directly. This ability creates empathy and insight. But it also requires energy. Your nervous system is working harder than most people realize. Part 54 explores another reason social interaction can feel draining: emotional attunement. Some individuals naturally tune into the emotional atmosphere of the people around them. They pick up on feelings in the room almost automatically. If someone nearby feels anxious, irritated, or sad, the emotionally sensitive person may begin sensing those emotions as well. This is sometimes described as emotional absorption. It does not mean the person is intentionally taking on someone else's feelings. It simply means their nervous system is highly responsive to emotional signals. When this happens repeatedly in social environments, the mind becomes overloaded with emotional information. Even if the conversation itself was friendly, the brain has still been processing dozens of emotional signals simultaneously. Another factor behind this experience is self-monitoring. In many social environments, people feel pressure to manage how they appear to others. You may think carefully about what you say, how you say it, and how your behavior is interpreted. This constant awareness of your own actions creates a form of mental tension. Instead of relaxing naturally, part of your mind remains focused on maintaining a certain image or avoiding mistakes. When the social situation ends, your mind finally releases that tension, and the exhaustion becomes noticeable. Part 54 also examines the role of introversion and cognitive recovery. Contrary to popular belief, introversion does not mean disliking people. Many introverted individuals enjoy meaningful conversations and relationships deeply, but their nervous system processes stimulation differently. Social environments provide a large amount of sensory and emotional input. For introverted minds, that input can become overwhelming if it continues for too long. After extended interaction, the brain requires time to return to a calm state. Solitude becomes a form of recovery rather than isolation. This recovery period allows the mind to process experiences quietly and restore its mental energy. Another important aspect of social exhaustion is authenticity. When someone feels unable to express their true thoughts or emotions in a social environment, they may begin adapting their behavior to match expectations around them. They might hide their real opinions suppress certain emotions, or adjust their personality to fit the group dynamic. This adaptation requires effort. The more a person feels they must perform socially rather than simply be themselves, the more energy the interaction requires. Afterward, the mind often feels depleted because it has been maintaining a version of itself that does not feel completely natural. Part 54 also reveals a paradox about people who feel drained after social interaction. These individuals are often highly empathetic, thoughtful, and emotionally intelligent. They care deeply about the feelings and experiences of others. They listen carefully. They notice details in communication that others might ignore. But this depth of awareness creates a heavier mental workload during interactions. Conversations are not just exchanges of words. They become complex emotional landscapes filled with signals that the brain continues analyzing long after the conversation ends. Another reason social interaction can feel draining is the absence of meaningful connection. When conversations remain on the surface level for extended periods, the mind may struggle to stay engaged. Talking about routine topics without deeper emotional exchange can create a sense of emptiness rather than fulfillment. For individuals who value meaningful conversation, shallow interaction can feel like mental effort without emotional reward. The mind continues participating politely while internally searching for deeper connection. This mismatch between effort and emotional satisfaction contributes to fatigue. Part 54 moves toward an important realization. Feeling drained after being around people does not mean you dislike social interaction. It often means your mind processes social environments with greater depth and sensitivity than average. You notice more details, feel more emotional signals, and think more carefully about communication. These abilities are strengths, not weaknesses. They allow you to understand people in ways that others may not recognize. But like any ability that requires energy, they also require recovery. Solitude becomes the space where your mind reorganizes itself. It allows emotional signals to settle, thoughts to slow down, and the nervous system to return to balance. Part 54 ends with an important insight. Humans are not designed to remain constantly stimulated by social interaction without rest. Just as muscles need recovery after physical activity, the emotional mind needs recovery after intense social processing. When you allow yourself time to recharge, the exhaustion gradually fades. Your clarity returns. Your emotional energy rebuilds. And the next time you interact with people, you can engage again with curiosity and openness rather than fatigue. Feeling drained after being around people is not a sign of weakness. It is simply the mind asking for the quiet space it needs in order to function at its best.